If you've been following American politics since Donald Trump came down that escalator, you know that a lot of Republicans have gone through this process where initially they were, not buying Donald Trump. They were mocking Donald Trump, pointing out how dangerous he was because all of that stuff is what any reasonable person would do. But then he took over. And they would very much like to still have jobs and power and money and go to fancy dinners and stuff. So now they don't say that stuff anymore. Every once in a while, we get reminded of that from someone who was formerly like them on the inside and is now looking in from the outside. Marjorie Greene is a great example of that. And that came up while she was on 60 Minutes. Leslie Stahl said to her, I'm gonna ask you about this almost solid support Trump has among Republicans in Congress. Is there, in that support, fear? Does the support come about because they're afraid they'll get death threats? Stahl asked. I think they're terrified to step out of line and get a nasty True Social post on them. Yes, Greene said, and she's obviously right, but it's still important to get it from a MAGA person. Leslie Stahl says, and they're watching what happened to you. Greene says, yes. Stahl says, behind the scenes, do they talk differently? Greene says, yes. How? Oh, it would shock people. Leslie Stahl says, well, let's shock people. And Greene says, okay, I've watched many of my colleagues go from making fun of him, making fun of how he talks, making fun of me constantly for supporting him, to when he won the primary in 2024, they all started, excuse my language, Leslie, kissing his ass and decided to put on a MAGA hat for the first time. I think a lot of that happened way before 2024. I think she's kind of off on the timeline there, but that process is indisputable. It did happen. And so, I don't know, I don't know what would really matter because pointing this out doesn't seem to get through to MAGA people. They don't, and this is kind of reasonable. They don't seem to mind that people in either right-wing media or politics are super two-faced as long as the face they now have is the one the person would want them to have. Like Tucker Carlson being outed as a complete and utter fraud who hated Donald Trump, thought he was a destroyer, no respect for him, but would go on his show and be like, oh, he's great, he's the best, and he supported him for president. To a MAGA person, it's like, well, good, yeah. I want you to say those nice things about him. I don't really care what you really believe because they don't apparently crave authenticity the way normal people do. So I don't know, JR, what would actually get through to them? Would it be, like, do we need videotape of these people? I mean, we have the tweets, we have the text messages of JD Vance. That didn't seem to matter. Why is it that they don't care? Because I feel like you and I, and probably a lot of people watching this, we would be bothered if we found out that, I don't know, we have like tweets from 6 years ago where AOC is like, this goddamn Bernie, he's such a socialist. I hate his guts. He's a destroyer. I feel like that would bother me a little bit. What do you think?
The worst part is we don't even need to go searching for these moments. When this guy first started, they called him a disaster. Ted Cruz said he's disrespectful and despicable. And you talk about Heidi, you come after me, I'm gonna beat you, damn it. All that stuff. And the next thing he's on the phone, kissing his ass. As recently as last week, he's standing over Donald Trump as Donald Trump is calling the affordability thing a hoax. And this dummy's over him nodding his head. Like, it's crazy. Ted Cruz is one of those people on the list. You don't have to look for things or look for something to uncover about JD Vance. He called him America's Hitler. He said he's a disaster. Lindsey Graham, who finds himself on his knees every opportunity, talks about how Donald Trump is gonna destroy the Republican Party. And if we support him, we deserve what we get. They've said it all. These folks up to January 6th, they blamed him for inciting the violence. That is until they then got behind his back and then said that he didn't. They constantly turn on him. And then afterwards, they go back to kissing his ass. And we're supposed to forget all these moments when they did it. It's exactly what they do. So even right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying a different level of acting like she wasn't always kissing his ass and revealing all this other stuff. She goes a little bit one step further because she's fully detaching herself from him now, I guess. But she's never gonna point out how she was always on board. And then she was the one who facilitated this whole thing. She just kind of did it backwards. The other guys hated him at first and then got behind his back. She was behind his back the whole time and then decided to turn now because she thinks it's politically expedient. So I don't trust any of them.
Yeah. No, there's no reason you should. And you don't need to. We could just see what happens and most of it will probably be bad.